I'm a locksmith to the heart, and I help people really get in through the barriers that are blocking them from really reaching their highest potential and living their highest self.
This episode of Juice Guru Radio is brought to you by TriBest, making healthy living easy.
Welcome to Juice Guru Radio. Discover what the magic and power of juicing can do for you. And now, your host, best-selling author of The Complete Idiot's Guide to Juice Fasting, Steve Prusak.
Hello, I'm Steve Prusak, and welcome to the show. We've got Lily Sanders, author of the newly released book, Truth to Triumph, a spiritual guide to finding your truth life experiences. She's going to be here right after this, so get yourself a tea, some juice, some water. We'll be back right after this with Lily Sanders.
Hi, this is Jay Cordich, the father of juicing. I want to invite you to join me in our School of Juicing. This online program features award-winning videos, audio books, and CDs to inspire and educate you on how juicing can change your life too. Check out our site at schoolofjuicing.com.
Start living healthy and increase your energy today. Visit schoolofjuicing.com to find out more. That's schoolofjuicing.com.
Juice Guru Radio.
And welcome back to the show. I'm Steve Prusak. Like I said, we got Lily Sanders, her new book, Truth to Triumph. We'll have a link to that under the show notes for the show. She has a successful background working as a dancer, TV and film actress, Broadway performer, and so much more. Multi-entrepreneur, now a highly successful coach in New York City, helping women live fully empowered, happy lives. And we're going to hear more about her incredible story. So brace yourself. Let's welcome to the show right now, Lily Sanders.
Hi, thank you. It's great to be here.
Lily.
I work with men and women, actually. It's been a really powerful time in my life, and I'm just enjoying myself.
Well, thank you for that, because I felt a little left out when I saw women.
I know. I think my PR person might have written that. But I help both. I'm there's no prejudices here, and we all have opportunity for growth, man, woman, child. So I'm here for you.
And we can all embrace our feminine and masculine. Isn't that great? We can all come together in harmony. So thank you for coming here. I know a little about your story, but I know our audience and our listeners don't. Can you take us through? Because you've had a great success in everything you're doing, but it wasn't always that way. So can you share your journey with us?
Sure. I mean, I'm going to give you a real abbreviated version. And the rest people could just pick up from Truth to Triumph. So I was raised in the suburbs of New York, which we discussed earlier, Long Island, New York, and wasn't the best upbringing. It was I had a very violent dad, and so I really have no happy memories at all growing up. But I really was that child that I had these dreams and visions and, big aspirations, all of which I really did realize by the time I was 23 that being a dance contestant on Star Search with Ed McMahon.
Yay!
And now I'm dating myself. But that was the show. That was the first. It's like today's Idol.
No, you're not dating yourself. Our listeners are that's us.
Okay,
we are us.
Okay, so that was back in when, and I was 23, and then after that I came back, and I was on a roll of auditioning actually, because what I wanted, my dream was to be a dancer and an actress and be performing, and so my next audition was a showgirl dancer as on the road with the Ringling Brothers Barnum and Bailey Circus. So that was an interesting role. That was an interesting gig. That lasted for a year. And then I came back to New York. I really kind of dove into my acting classes and so on. And I was loving that. And so I kind of hung up my dance hat as far as performing. And I really started performing as an actor on stage off Broadway and also in front of the camera. I was a day player on One Life to Live, ABC. And so that was kind of cool. And so I had about 17 years of going on this path, which I felt was my purpose at the time. Steve, as a performer, dancing and acting, and then all of a sudden, 17 years after, I left home, and now I'm here. 17 years later, I'm living in this city. I'm living the life, and then I make this turn, 180 pivot, which I call onto the path left of center. That's what I call it in my book, Truth to Triumph. And that was, I wound up back into this relationship with, highly unconscious relationship, a highly unconscious man. And it was a very abusive relationship. And there I was back into this life of domestic violence. This time it was years later. I was much older, and it was my marriage. And so I was like, how does this happen? And what was interesting is, I didn't go from it didn't go in a pattern, so to speak. There was this span, of 17, 20 years where, any relationship I had, which was just a few, were very kind and loving. But I never got married to them because I was on this role. I was being a professional, and I didn't want to get married. But then when I finally made that choice, I don't know, I must have been very highly unconscious. And so here I was, married, divorced, remarried, two very, very, very bad relationships. And so that said, I was living behind a veil of silence, Steve, for 14 years. I was a battered wife. 14 years.
Oh.
And first was 5 years, and then 9 years after that, back to back, without healing, without dating, nothing, just back to back. And that said, I'd like the viewers to understand that I understand how you can live that kind of life and then still function. Meaning, I was a highly successful entrepreneur at the time. I owned 3 very successful franchises while I was a battered wife. Yeah, sometimes I remember going into, work quite a few times, one time in particular with sunglasses on. Because, I know, it's ugly. So, right. But the good news is, look at me now, look at me here, and look what I do for people, and look how enlightened I am, and every single thing that I've gone through really has been an amazing lesson and an amazing portal, if you will, to get me to exactly where I am today.
One of the things that came to mind when you were sharing that, and thank you for that, and your bravery of sharing, and, this is an ongoing problem in our society. So I was thinking of Dr. Harville Hendrix and the imago theory, the idea that we tend to choose people subconsciously to live out childhood issues. And so when you think about the idea that you were in 2 relationships like that, it just brought that to mind. It seemed like some part of you was trying to resolve the issues that came from your dad of the childhood that you had, where in our relationships we can actually heal those childhood wounds. Have you ever looked into that at all, or heard of that theory?
Yeah. There's a lot of myths out there, and there's a lot of theories out there that are particularly, and no offense, to any authors or psychiatrists or philosophers, but those all come from people that have not lived that life and have not awakened to their higher self. So when you're looking at, that's the textbook theory. That's, psychiatry or psychology 101. But really the truth is that we're not our mother, we're not our father, we're not our family name, we're not our bank account, we're not the car we drive. We are the essence of who we are, which is our truth. And who we really are is what arises in that space all by itself after the exhale of an experience. So when people say, it's in their DNA, or it's this cyclic pattern or whatever, it can be if you identify yourself with your past. But really, the real lesson is, and for me personally, it's it's not that you have unresolved issues with mom or dad or, whatever someone's personal story is. It's that you haven't learned to love yourself. And mostly because you haven't been taught that, which I'd like to touch on that just for one moment, because I'm sure there's a lot of parents, a lot of moms and dads here that are listening. And, the old paradigm is, your child does really well in school today, or your child did great in that, in that tournament, and your child brought home a test grade that was really super, super great. And we're kind of raised, oh, mommy's so proud of you, daddy's so proud of you. We need to kind of turn that around. That's the old paradigm. Doesn't work, doesn't build up your child's confidence. You need to tell your child, you must be so proud of yourself. We've got to build self-confidence. We have to stop teaching our children that we need to be validated by mommy, validated by daddy, validated by our husband, validated by our wife, validated by our boss, just validated in general by the world out in form. We need to really love ourselves, know that we're perfect, know that we're beautiful, know that no matter what we do and why we decided to do that and where we are in this moment, we need to love it. Does that make sense?
I love that. So part of the work, right, when you got out of this situation and started to rebuild and not create that devastation in your life again. So would you say the first step was getting in touch with the love that you had for yourself? And how did that play out in the day to day?
Yes, completely. The first step is really stopping and saying, okay, who am I? Which is the universal question. Who am I? Why am I here? What is this all about? And in that self-inquiry, if you will, who am I, is very, very powerful when you come to that discovery. Because what you will discover is that you're not your life situation, that you're not even your successes in this life situation. I'm not talking about even if you just have an ugly story or an unhappy story. What about someone that's watching today, not to be a Debbie Downer, but what goes up comes down. Everything is not always here. It's like this in life. So you can have you could be really, really super accomplished right now, today, in this moment. But no matter where you are in this moment, whether you're in a great place or you're not, we need to love it. And no matter where you are in this moment, whether you're in a great place or not, guess what? That's not who you are. So if you're this really super accomplished person and you have this really great relationship, it's not who you are. You are independent of any situation in this world. And that's really the internal work. And how do we take that from day to day is this. Let me give you an example. Okay, so you mentioned that I was a dancer, I was an actress. I was an entrepreneur, I mentioned. So I'm a mommy, right? I was a wife. So now a daughter. So now, but when I find who I am and I have the answer to who I am and the truth of who I am, now I can take the love of who I am. And now it is my guide, because your career is not your purpose. Your career is guided by your purpose. So when you know who you are, then you know your purpose, because that's a close second. You can't know your what until you know your who. First, you have to know your your who, and then your what. And your what just kind of appears, if you will, once you know who you are. And loving who you are is the very, very first step to really succeeding in life, in all areas of your life. Because I truly believe, Steve, that we are born a success, every single one of us. I truly believe that we are all healthy. I believe that health is omnipresent reality for all of us. I see even our bodies, and I love to talk to you about this because you are the juice guru. And by the way, for anyone that's tuning in, Steve and I were just chatting. I've been juicing since 1985, and he is super proud of me. Really.
Now you see why she looks the way she does, because She's a lot older than me, and I thought she was younger, and I was like, oh, it is the juice.
Yeah. I'm at least 30. So when we experience our body in every way, the love that we're made up of, and love, by the way, is energy, and we experience our body as this energetic process, if you will, and not a structure. Everything seems to look different. And now you begin to look at life and look at yourself and then your situation outside at soul level. And things begin to look really, really different. And then you start to look at these things that are going on around you and you're like, 2 words come to mind. So what? Who cares? None of that really matters. None of that really matters because I know who I am. And I know that I'm this vibrant, living, loving, constantly changing, transient process. And so are you. And so are you people out there. And in actuality, to get really, really deep, this may be a whole nother show, there's really no process in healing because healing is a revelation. And that revelation is knowing that you are pure spirit and you are purely healthy and you are purely perfect. And it's really all a mindset.
Listening to Lily Sanders here on Juice Guru Radio, and I just love the kind of interview where we're going to come in one way and we're going to come out another. We're going to transcend during this. And I love that idea, too, of looking back on our lives and our biography, where I could say, yeah, I was born in Brooklyn, but I grew up in New Jersey and I went to college and I had a master's degree and I had a radio show and I married my high school sweetheart and I get the juices in me. But none of that even matters. When we peel away the layers of who we really are outside of the story that comes with us, what is the process for doing that, and how do we get – that's scary work for some of us.
It is, but we have to – and you used a word that I use all the time, peeling. Peel off the labels and peel off every single label that not just people put on you and society puts on you, but also peel off the labels that you put on yourself, like, because the degree, the father, the juice guru, because it's true, none of that really does matter. And that's how we can navigate through life. So, knowing really the essence of who's driving the wheel, so to speak. So this body here, this body, by the way, is really needs to be driven from the heart. And this body is what we use to navigate through life, but really we have to do this from an internal point. And that's why I say none of all those labels really matter, because then now, while who you are and the essence of who you are is driving the wheel, then it's going to go in the right place, because now you're making every single choice in your life. You're choosing these creations that you're experiencing, which are really very, very divine, because it's coming from a place of the heart. It's coming from your spirit, from your soul. And this is a really, really awesome place to be quite honest with you. It just lightens the load of all of the minutiae in life situations,
Isn't there a kind of process we all go through from, maybe we start off more pure, and then when we're in the system of school and wherever else school, if we go to college or work, and the idea of trying to fit in, and also people that we date who expect us to be a certain way, and we change who we are based on what we might think is cool back then or whatever else, and not embracing our unique self. Is there something to that? And also, if you can touch on ego, is there a letting go of ego in all this that also brings a sense of peace?
Yes. Okay. So part one to your question is, there's a lot to do with that. And what that is that's forgetting the essence of who you are. And again, that's looking to the world in form to be validated. And so you begin to change things, or you begin to pretend to change things about yourself because you're looking to fit in or be validated by, you know, the people in school and college, by someone that you're dating that you think you love, when really it's just your ego. Talk about ego. That's your ego, really. That's identifying with that person's ego, but it's not really love. And if it is, if you feel like you need to change for anyone, then it's definitely not love. It's really about, and ego plays a big part in one way. It's not that ego is bad. It's that ego can be very unconscious. And being unconscious is bad. We want to be conscious. So for the most part, ego takes on that unconscious role. But it's not, you know, it's not the ego itself that's bad, because we're all going to have ego about us, right? You know, look, you know, I curled my hair today, and we're all going to have that. You know, it's rainy, it's a bad hair day, I'm going to put a hat on. But it's the things that we identify with our ego that put us in a very unconscious state of living. And we want the opposite. We want to be very conscious. We want to be very present. We want to be very aware in things within ourselves and with our relationships with other people, at work, relationally, you know, in a love relationship, friendship, even the way we relate to our pets. You know, we're all energy, and we all deserve love, every one of us. And so we need to really practice being present every single moment so that we stay present. And then this way, when you know, that parachute falls out of the sky and boom, you know, everything was great, and all of a sudden, boom, something falls down, and there's a disaster. Someone all of a sudden, you know, the doctor tells them that they have this, you know, life-threatening disease, which, you know, I like to call it body-threatening, not life. This disease, or someone, you know, your boss just said, pack up your desk, you're fired, or any kind of disaster, you know, whatever, a tsunami. Now we can handle that because we're going to understand how to navigate through that life situation at that moment in a very present state. And what's good, what I mean by we can handle it, is when we're present, the very thing that we can really wrap our arms around is peace. You can't have peace in a situation unless you're very present. And one of the things that I talk about is choice. And that choice means this. In a situation that might be right here and now, it may not always turn perfect. But the choice to have peace in a situation is always there. And so if there's peace in a situation, then it truly is perfect. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I love what you're saying. I also love being in the moment where I'm not like, oh, what am I going to ask next? It's like when I do an interview.
This is very organic, people, very organic. We haven't rehearsed this.
No, because when you do an interview, sometimes you're like, all right, what am I going to ask next? And then you're not present. But, you know, this all brings us into a state of now, you know, and we want to get there. Either we think about yoga or meditation, what's going to bring us into now? And then part of me was thinking, what if, like right now, this seems so perfect and calm, and everyone's watching this and learning or listening when we're on iHeartRadio. But I was like, well, what if we have a power outage here in California? And what if this just goes down? Like, I would be stripped of that now and in panic. And what about the people that are listening? And how can I bring them back onto the Zoom video? And how are we going to have to do this again? So what I was thinking, I guess what that brings up for me is the calm in the face of the storm, because it all seems fine and good when we're in the moment and we get reminded of a message like this, such an important message. And then life gets in the way. And for some of us, we can't stay there. And I'd like to know, have you been, you know, what do you do? And when you get out of this, the know that you have, the wisdom that you have to keep here with the obstacles that confront all of us, no matter what it is.
That's a great question. Okay, so I'll use your example as an example. Okay, so let's say everything goes down And we lose, there's all of a sudden there's no internet, or something happens with, iHeartRadio, and, all of a sudden that's it. Okay, so that means that the show is temporarily stopped. Now, you can either be anxious, irritated, angry, and flustered, and doing all these crazy things, trying to get on, and then by the time 10 minutes, 15 minutes later goes by, and maybe you didn't get the show back up, or you finally did get the show back up, but now it's at the end of your hour, what would be the point of getting to the same place without peace? You're going to get to the same place anyway. You might as well do it with peace. You might as well do it, with the choice of peace. So then you can just kind of very calmly be in acceptance of what just happened. Oh, okay, well, you know what? I guess this isn't happening at the moment. Let me see what I can do to maybe change this situation. Then you do what you have to do technically, calmly. We either get back up or we don't. Either way, you're going to get to the same place, but you're going to get there calmly. And that's the difference. Like in my past, I talk about in Truth to Triumph, there's a lot of raw stories in there, but there's, a couple of stories that, I talk a lot about co-parenting, and especially parents that are divorced, and, they just buy into all the nonsense that goes on with their, fighting with their ex-spouses in front of the children, and, all of this stuff that they're buying into, and they're going to court, and they're, I remember going to court, custody battle, whatever, and I remember like my stomach being, like just in knots, and, my heart fluttering, and, in hindsight, what would have been the better choice was to go peacefully, because the same outcome happens anyway. In fact, many times the outcome is worse when you are not present, when you are living in fear, which I'm going to segue into fear versus love, because that's the only thing in this world that matters. You've got these two forces, right? You've got love, you've got fear. Guess what, people? Fear has nothing on love. Love is the greatest energy on the planet and beyond the planet. And as long as we remember to keep returning and remembering who we are, and that we come from love and we're made up of love, then we can just really abolish fear out of our lives, because fear is very debilitating. It really is. It stops us from living out the truth of who we are. It stops us from being happy. It stops us from living in peace. Fear is, it's not as strong as love. And people get so afraid of things. And I say, look, all you got to do is remember to love. You just put, that choice for peace, and peace and love are kind of hand in hand, And
it's also that coming from the heart, right? So they're all connected. The heart to love and peace, and
yes,
the unconditional love that you
and unconditional love. Exactly. And in Truth to Triumph, I talk a lot about connecting the heart with the mind, with your intuition, and that's kind of the trilogy of trilogies. And if we can start to connect all three, we can not only move mountains, we can be on a nice even plane where, there's not so many ups and downs. And speaking of planes, and speaking of mountains, I just had a discussion with someone yesterday. Don't stress. I want to tell all of the viewers today, don't stress anymore. I want you to hang up your stress hat. Don't stress about the darkness that you're in right now, because the good news is the light is in the valley. It's not up on top of the mountain peaks with the sun shining. The light is always going to come into the darkness, shining right there in your life today. And all you need to do is go to the light. All you need to do is be very present and be very aware that, love and source and God or whatever your beliefs are, doesn't matter. You've got to do that internal work. Whatever that is to you has your back. And it's there. It's there. You just got to look for it.
It's so true. And we experience that in my everyday life. My wife and I, no matter how bad things ever get, she always gives me that message. She says, tomorrow's going to be better. It's like, and it always is. It always is. It's always like getting through whatever that is. And the universe just seems to open up. It's a portal into something, right, Julie? It's a portal into something better. Don't we always say that?
We do.
Whenever things are bad,
that's good, Julie.
It gets way better.
Yeah. It's, yin and yang, up and down, cause and effect, and what goes up must come down.
Mm-hmm.
And, so that's why I say that. So if someone's like kind of down and out in the valley of this darkness, guess what? That's where the light is, dude. That's where the light is. You just got to open your eyes.
So what are the first steps to self-love? Because a lot of us have the voices in our head from whether it be a parent or a teacher that, when I was in fourth grade, they called me a buffoon because I was the class clown. What is it that, how do we let go of those voices in our head that are holding us back?
Mm-hmm. The voices in the head that hold us back. Okay, and self-love kind of go hand in hand. So the first thing we want to do is we want to really look at yourself first in love and as love. And when you start to think about self-love, you just want to begin to see yourself from soul level, which is what I kind of mentioned a little bit before. So meaning from this point forward, one practical way to do this is get really still in your quiet space. Turn off your phones, turn off your email, turn down your laptops. Really, really be honest with yourself. Give yourself this quiet time. Be still. Be still and know, right? And in that stillness, do that self-inquiry and begin to see yourself not of this body here, but of something much more that embodies this body. So this body, these arms, these legs, this houses your soul. So I want you to start thinking and seeing yourself and feeling yourself from soul level. And from that, from the eyes of the soul, you start asking yourself, who am I? And then whatever arises, things are going to pop up. Look, I work with people all the time. You're going to get mad. You might get weepy. You might laugh. You might feel nothing. Whatever arises, don't judge it. Just let it arise and just be there with it. And as little thoughts arise, you just kind of let them go and let them go. And finally, when the mind is really quiet, this means shutting off the chatter in the mind, because this is a two-part question, so I'm going to fuse them together for you, Steve. That the mind is always like, that chatter in the mind never stops until your mind comes to a complete stop, which takes practice, people. Then whatever is there, whatever is left, the essence of who you are, that's who you are. And that's many times where you'll hear that intuition, that innate voice speaking with you, or that inner child. And whatever that is, love it. And that is a key thing to know and to do. Whatever you are, whoever you are, love it. Now, the next thing is, each time the mind starts to want to go and feed you things, I call this, in Truth to Triumph, your mental warehouse. Stop storing all the garbage. Stop storing everything that's going on in your mind from birth until now. What happens is, even if we don't talk about something, even though if we don't talk about an unhappy story or an unhappy event in our life, doesn't mean that we really let it go. But, because many times we have volumes and volumes of stories, unhappy events in our lives that we we store in what I call the mental warehouse. And every time we choose to suffer, I'm going to repeat that, choose to suffer, because we choose to suffer, we just pull out those stories right out of our warehouse, and it's like, and there we go, back into suffering mode. We want to reverse the mindset. We want to reframe the mind, and we want to start to, now remember, you're going back thinking, looking, and seeing and feeling through soul level, which is going to include your heart. We want to keep, so anytime something comes in that's making you feel angry, disappointed, sad, depressed, judgmental on someone or yourself, even self-blame, that's a big one. You want to just not believe it. And I call this the little liar on your shoulder. The little liar on your shoulder is fear. You know this guy. Sometimes it's a big guy. He's hanging out on your shoulder there telling you, don't do this, or don't go there, it's not safe, or, now look what you did, look at the mess you're in. And, that's the little guy on your shoulder I call fear. I call him the little liar on your shoulder because he's a liar. Because honestly, how can you fear something, that you're tomorrow that hasn't happened? How could you fear something that doesn't even exist? That's ridiculous. So we want to start to blow the little liar off our shoulder and live in the present moment of love today. Because fear tells you, I want to make you safe. And that's the disguise that fear comes in, by the way. But love tells you you are safe. That's a big difference, dude. Big difference.
What's the negativity thing? I mean, I read a study that people are actually drawn to negativity. People love negativity. It's why people like to gossip, or they like to judge other people, or they get together or they watch these reality shows where they can feel like maybe their life is better watching these horrible negative things. Why are people drawn to negativity? What's that all about? And how can we overcome that too?
Because they're not drawn to themselves. They're looking for an escape away from the reality of who they are. And so they, instead of turning their attention in, all of their attention, sadly, is outward. And that I would advise, a solution to that, to anyone that is always drawing their attention and focusing their attention outward and judging and reality shows and all of that stuff that you just mentioned, scary movies, that's also going outward. I turn your attention in and trust that your attention is the translator of your life. And that's big. I'm going to repeat myself. Trust that your attention is the translator of your life, the translator of your body, the translator of your spirit, your mind, everything. And when you turn your attention inward, your wisdom will become remarkable. It really will. And from that point, how you choose the creation that you want to experience in every single situation, from that point on, becomes qualia. It becomes really, really high quality stuff.
What about the obstacles? Like I hear it in our community, things like, you can have all the information in the world to start drinking juices, to get more vegetables and fruits in your body. We all know we need that. But then there are the blocks, the fear of failure, that I'm not going to be able to do this or stick with it, or I'm going to keep gaining weight and I'm not going to be able to get into the kind of body that I know I should be in. How do we overcome some of those blocks that are holding people back? Yeah.
Okay. Good question. Again, there's fear running your life. I'm talking to people that maybe are in that situation right now. Forget about all of the what ifs and just be here. And if you don't start, and if you don't make the choice to take an action today for the love of yourself, not even to talk about, the love of your family that you want, this long, healthy life with, then how are you going to make these changes in your life? You've got to actually take the initiative and actually take the shift. And that shift means that you are responsible to clean up your own life. You are responsible to clean out all of the debris in your own life. That includes your spirit, your mind, your body. No one else is going to do it for you. You have to do it for yourself. There isn't a drug in the world that's going to do it for you. You have to do it for yourself. There isn't a doctor in the world that's going to do it for you. You have to do it yourself. And that's why I said in the top of the hour, Steve, that health is an omnipresent reality. See, you are really healthy, and you know innately how to make healthy choices in your life. But you've forgotten it with all the madness in the world and all of the fear that's stuck inside of your head. So you've got to take that shift. And when you take that shift from fear into love, from unconscious into conscious, from awareness into and remembrance of love, then you can almost slide right into second base. It's like the first shift is that first run to, from first base. Say, instead of worrying about, am I going to make that next base? Is that guy going to get me out before I get there? Whatever it is, you have to stop thinking about the ifs, because they don't even exist except in your mind. I mean, that's crazy. And I've even heard a lot of people make statements to me, because I'm very health conscious, and I know I juice and I do my NutriBullet and all that stuff. And people say, "Well, I heard that it's not as healthy to press the juice, than it is to like." And you've heard it all, haven't you? I mean, I hear it all. I hear it all the time. And there goes those two words again, Steve. So what? Who cares? Who cares what you heard? What you need to hear is that you love yourself, and you innately know exactly what is perfect and healthy for your body. If you know that going in there that is a house full of fire is going to burn you, are you going to walk in there? Of course not. Of course not. You don't look.
But what is that? I mean, it's funny. I do hear that all the time. We hear it right here in the community. So, and we try to explain the difference. Yes, a smoothie is great. A green smoothie is great, but there's nothing like flooding your body with nutrients from a fresh pressed, cold pressed juice into your organs and into your bloodstream. And we all know it's the best ever. And all you have to do is try it to know it's the best ever. Mm-hmm. But there is misinformation out there. And I don't know if it's that people want the easier route, because it's like, well, if I just throw it in a blender, I could just, chop it up. Never mind that it oxidizes and it breaks down and it's not going to last you a few days like a cold pressed juice. But never mind that, or that you get twice the nutrients in a cup of juice as compared to the smoothie, because, well, we can just fit way more through our juicer. That's going to be a more concentrated nutrient, and the studies show that juicing is superior. They don't have, people that are healing from green smoothies. People are healing from juicing. They've been for decades.
Yes.
It works. We know it works, and you're trying it. It works.
Yes.
Why do people? So I'm asking, I guess, is it that we're looking for the easy route? We want to believe the misinformation or that infomercial that said this NutriBlast is superior than a juice. What is it that leads us to the wrong decision? Is it, we want the easy way? My mom even told me, she's like, and I got them a juicer recently, but she said, Stephen, I'm not going to take the time to juice. I'm just too lazy. I mean, that's an excuse we'll hear from our parents and lots of people that are going to get honest and say, I'm just too lazy to prepare and juice and clean it. The blender's a lot easier. Is that what it is?
I think, and I hear the same things. It's interesting. What it is a lack of self-love. Because when you really love and honor yourself and you treat your body as the temple, and even anyone who's biblical, my body is the temple. My body is the temple of God. When you do that, and when you truly, truly believe that, then you will live like that. And also, I think there's also a real lack of honesty in when people start coming up with excuses. Why don't you just be honest with yourself? You just don't want to do it. You know, look, some people really just be honest with yourself. If for you eating is enjoyment and you prefer to go out and, you know, have fried calamari, then so what? So enjoy. Be there then. Enjoy that. Go out and have fried calamari, but start your day with a nice green juice drink and just get on with it. Just be honest with yourself and try and, I suggest that people try and, don't bombard yourself over the head with it if you're really not getting it yet, but start to add little things once a day. I always suggest in the morning, just once a day in the morning, start your day off right.
How do you know? That's what our book's about. You're so funny.
Oh, really? See, yeah. Because see, two minds.
Transform your life by eating one juice a day. That's what it's about.
That's what I do. That's what I've been doing. That's what I've been telling people. Since 1985, I've been doing this. And just that once a day, it's like, I do the same thing with meditation. I like people to do both. I ask a lot of people. So I say, before you get out of bed, I hear this all the time. Juicing is there's just as many complaints from non-juicers than there are from non-meditators. And I hear, oh, I can't meditate. I don't know how to meditate. I don't have time to meditate. I don't understand meditating. Oh, I know. It's not for me. Look, two things. Meditating is listening, praying, talking to God, meditating, listening to God, or listening to the universe, or listening to source, or listening to your inner child. All it is being present. Meditation is not an act of doing, it's a state of being. So every time someone gives me a bunch of malarkey, I say, look, when you wake up in bed, your eyes are open, or your eyes aren't even open, but you're consciously awake. Just stay laying there for 5 minutes, will you? And just listen to whatever is going on. That's meditating. You don't have time for that? You don't have that time? Then set your alarm 5 minutes earlier and make the time, because you need to make the time for yourself. Same thing. You don't have time to juice? Are you kidding me? It takes, what is it? It takes seconds. You don't have time to clean it? So what? Who's going to your house? The cleaning police? Who cares? Let it sit there. When you have time, when you're in the mood, you go back and you clean it.
No. We give an extra large cleaning brush. It takes 5 to 10 minutes. So there you
go.
Right, Michelle, if you're watching this, you know that. I saw you in the group. You know it takes 5 minutes.
Apply yourself.
We got to get you one of those.
Yeah, I would love one. Apply yourself, though. Love yourself. The big answer is lack of love, lack of self-love. When you love yourself, you will honor yourself and your body, and everything you do, especially for yourself, will be so, it'd be a privilege to actually take care of yourself. And so you'll start to actually, if you didn't like juicing, all of a sudden you start drinking your juice and you're like, I think I'm really acquiring a taste for this. Before you know it, after a few months, you're going to have your favorite juice. My favorite juice, I've loved for years, and it's just my thing.
What is your favorite juice?
Okay, and I have exactly the same, these particular amounts, so that it comes out a particular color and taste. So it looks like a really pink cocktail, right? So it's carrot beet, and I do. The increments are exactly so that it comes out pink. And I put in a little bit of green apple, but I don't always have to do that. If I don't have apple, fine, but the carrot with the beet. And, we all know the great things between the two of them. And I hear that too. Oh, there's so much sugar. And I'm like, okay, look at me. Do I have body fat? I don't want to hear about the sugar.
No.
I want to hear about the good stuff you put in your body, right?
No. We try to explain in Dr. Gerson's therapy that they were reversing cancer back in the 30s and 40s with carrot apple juice. Let's not get crazy here.
Yes. In fact, you know what? The very first 2 minutes you and I talked today, and I said I've been juicing since 1985, and you went, whoa. Guess who inspired me? The Juice Man.
Was it the Juice Man?
It was the Juice Man. I saw him on television, and I said, God bless this guy. If he can heal himself from cancer, from carrot apple juice, then that's good enough for me. I have been juicing ever since then, and carrot apple beet is now my favorite.
I love it. Wow, real testament. Well, I love that you can bring it all into the work we're doing, which I didn't expect. I don't know who got you on the show. My assistant booked it, but I don't know. Did you see? Oh, that might be a good fit. I don't know. Yeah. Have you talked about juicing and transformation before?
I have a little bit. We should get together and do some things together. And I do have a section on my website, and I talk about juicing. Oh, that's
so exciting. That warms my heart. She's Lily Sanders, and by the way, her website is lilysanders.live. lilysanders.live. We'll have a link under the show notes at Juice Guru Radio. We're running up to the top of the hour here. We want to take a few questions from the audience before we close out the iHeartRadio. So go ahead and start typing them in. If you want to come on live from the rewind, we'll bring you on too, whatever you want. Just let me know in the chat box. So type in below the video. But in closing, we didn't really talk about what led to writing the book. I don't know if you want to close with that or final advice, or maybe we can do both.
Yeah, sure.
What led to the book Truth to Triumph? What is the message and how? Obviously I see what the message is because this has just been a totally intuitive interview, but anything else we didn't touch on that you wanted to share about what led to the book and where else we can go with it? Diane wrote, "This was fantastic."
Oh, thank you, Diane. Thank you. Yeah, well, what led to it was, all of the garbage that I went through for I didn't even mention, but, or maybe I did, but, between my childhood and then my marriage. But what led me was that I felt that everything that I went through, all of the pain, all of the suffering, all of the garbage, would have really gone in vain if I didn't use that as a purpose to help other people. And I also wanted to be a voice, not necessarily for people that don't have their own voice, but for people that have not found their truth. Because I honestly, everything that I went through is really what led me to finding my own truth of who I am. And so I tell some of the stories in my book, in Truth to Triumph. For those of you that don't know, it's just really made up of a lot of never before told stories that I reveal, secrets, if you will. And a lot of them are very raw. But I really only do that to really bring people to a place where they can maybe reflect on maybe darkness that's in their life today and bring them from darkness into the light. And the intent of the book is really to guide people. Let's use it as a guide to guide them to learn how to turn their pain in their life and suffering into peace. Because if you don't turn the pain into peace, it turns into suffering. And we want to be in the love zone, not the suffering zone. My message is always about love. My website, as you said, is lilysanders.live, LILYSANDERS.LIVE, as in live juices. And you know what? You can get the book off my website, and you can also go internationally. You can get it from Amazon.com.
Well, it's a message. How can anyone argue with the message of love, right? People find everything to fight over, but what can they say about, well, there's Lily talking about love again?
Yeah, that's so funny. Do you want to, I'm going to tell this to everyone out here now. I just recently had started branding myself as, when people were asking me, I was asking me, what do you do? And you know that cocktail party question. It's so annoying.
Yes.
And I go, well, I said, I'm a locksmith to the heart. No response. And I thought I am. So I decided that I was talking with someone who was a host of another radio show I was on. And we were on the phone for a long time. And he actually came up with that. He goes, you're a locksmith. And I go, I am, right? I'm a locksmith. So I'm a locksmith to the heart. And I help people really get in through the barriers that are blocking them from really reaching their highest potential and living their highest self. When you're locked out of the house, you don't sit there waiting and saying, okay, maybe in 10 minutes or an hour, this same key will become magical and it'll just work. No, you gotta call in an expert. You call a locksmith. So that's who I am.
Beautiful.
Call me in.
Website again, lilysanders.live. We're going to close out the iHeartRadio portion of this. I'm Steve Pruzak. Thank you again, Lily, for being here on the show. And check out the work she's doing. Get the book, Truth to Triumph. Highly recommended. It's under our show notes. You can find it on her website or on Amazon. I'm Steve Pruzak, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you for listening to Juice Guru Radio. Find out more about us at juiceguru.com. Until next time, get your juice on.